But before that, I was just like, don't know if I can afford it, whereas it should have been. I couldn't, like the early ones, because I got some when I originally joined. I made 30x since then. But then the ones after went through on buying a house.
Say it again.
At least in America, they say like, oh, private healthcare is bad and like people that have cancer don't get treated. But you know what? When the US government falls, the private healthcare doesn't, because they're for-profit businesses at least. In the UK, when our government falls and the pound falls to zero, the NHS, everyone that works there will not get paid next month. Do you think they're still going to be there to treat your cancer? They're not.
It's a powerful thing.
And I'm pretty sure that most of sterling is digital.
But it hasn't got a blockchain.
Who fucking cares? It's still the same shit.
Hey, we're here, episode 15 to the people. We're still going, still masses. Although, there's a thing where we started our podcast and Bitcoin went down. So ever since we started,
it was a top signal, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, we had. I think for the first time on the podcast, we've had. I know you missed the no check Walker over there, but we had an update or a couple of updates.
Yeah. We've actually put Ross into positive again.
Really, I think we had it was a 10,000K candle. Half of it didn't last very long, but we went from about $30,000 to over $40,000 in space of a couple of hours.
It looks like the top sterling price was 29,186, almost like magical 30.
Yeah. I think it on certain exchanges, I think it was mainly on the Asian ones. That was where a lot of the buying was happening. It went a lot higher, but it just wicked up and wicked back down again. There was.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So did you sell all your Bitcoin, make a nice profit?
Yeah, I'm out. Dead because Bitcoin's dead again now. Because after that, we came back down. Probably half of what we went up, we came back down. And it's crazy to see how quickly the sentiment changes. When we were at 30,000, the entire Bitcoin Twitter, and to be fair, a lot of the shitcoiners and the traders were all going to 20, we're going to 10, it's all going to zero. And then we hit 40,000, all the 100,000 people come back out the woodwork. Hey. They were like, it's mooning. We come back down to like 35,000. It's bearish again. Everyone's like, oh, it's dead again. It's like, Jesus, guys, you flit a light at the wind. It's so nice just to be able to sit back and just watch it and go, look, I'm in for the long term. This either goes to the moon or goes to zero. I'm going to sit back and just hodl my sats and keep stacking. I'm just so glad I'm not a trader. There was a great stat that came out of Pomp's podcast. I think it was in 12 minutes, $1 billion worth of shorts got liquidated. $1 billion. When we went from 30 and smashed through 40, I think it went to 44, 45. $1 billion in 12 minutes. Don't short Bitcoin, guys. Don't do it.
I just think shorts they should be illegal. I just do not understand how they are a thing.
Well, you're a brave person if you short, basically, especially with those types of numbers. It's not just hitting one person. That's a lot of people that were trying to short Bitcoin.
But it's always things with the meme stocks. When I started reading into shorts, and you basically told me off for not watching The Big Short as well, so I watched that. And I just don't get the whole concept of how it's even remotely legal. It just sounds so corrupt. Like, I can't believe. I didn't even know you could short Bitcoin, until I think I saw it a couple of weeks ago or so, when it was in Bitcoin Twitter somewhere. It just seems like almost comical.
Yeah. But do you want to start on why it all happened? Because it looks like, I never like trying to guess why the price goes up and why the price goes down. Because largely there's more buyers than sellers when the price goes up, and there's more sellers than buyers when the price goes down. But this seems to have started from a rumor that it's City AM, which is weirdly, it's a newspaper I've been interviewed by a couple of times. They specialize in tech news in the UK. Very, very small little publication. but they reckon they had some insider info from an Amazon exec that Amazon was going to start accepting Bitcoin this year and then look to accept more cryptocurrencies next year and also create Amazon coin. So that's what looks like started the pump. And as that rumor got bigger over a couple of days, the price just went rough because someone found some job adverts on Amazon's website for blockchain and Bitcoin experts. So that almost was unofficial confirmation of the rumor.
It is something which they should do. You look at a company like Amazon, and they can easily fall behind if they get fundamental kind of like changes wrong. And this is a little bit of a hedge. It doesn't mean that it's got to work, but they can't accept payments.
Oh, they can definitely afford mistakes without
exactly.
a doubt.
But I feel like if they miss the boat, some other organisation could get in. And it's just them prepping for future. I think it probably is true. They're probably looking at accepting it because I don't see any reason why not. It's like we've seen Bitcoin massive popularity. We've seen it become legal tender at El Salvador. The rumours about the rest of South America. And the next one, which I'm hoping, is France. Now they're overthrowing their president.
Is that happening?
There's a lot of riots. They're tearing down any kind of like paintings of him, burning them, burning cars in the street. Like, they're pissed off. Like, he overstepped the mark. Like, they were compliant for a year and a bit, and then he started bringing up the vaccine passport, and we're like, this happened in the World War II. We remember this, or rather we're told about it. This is not happening again. And that's why it's happened. And Macron just seems to have completely lost his senses. He's still trying to insist it, but they're still rioting. But anyway,
it's interesting for a young guy as well, in comparison to people of power of, in that age, you would think that he would get it.
Yeah, I think the latest thing that I saw, he's threatening people with 6 months in prison if they go to a bar or restaurant without being vaccinated and lie about the fact that, oh, I am vaccinated and get in, basically. If we find out later, 6 months in prison, that's what's just sending people over the edge. Like, what is going on here?
Well, he's tried to backtrack a couple of times, but he's got to take it all away. Like, they're not going to settle for anything less, otherwise they're going to drag him out of his place and burn him. Like, they've got history of doing this.
Yeah. I think we may have even covered it on like one of our first or second podcasts where people in France were it was illegal to film the police. And so I think, it's just a downhill spiral, isn't it?
Yeah, they've been compliant, they've stuck with all those things, but when they started getting threatened with vaccine passports and restrictions of people who don't have a vaccine, I think the vaccine passport was a big one because, as you're probably aware, on data laws, they have very strict data laws because of the way which the Nazis kept records of them all.
Yeah. So it's weird. I knew some French people, like Sweden was full of French people when I was there because they had the harshest lockdown. They literally they called them freedom passes right from the beginning. And you would get a freedom pass. You have to apply for it. You'd have to apply for what time of the day you were going to go out, at which hour, and you had to be carrying it with you during lockdown. So when you were going on your exercise during the day, because people were going out and walking around all the time, and the police obviously asking, are you out? People were staying out for too long, they thought. So you had to book your hour out. And if you were seen outside of your freedom pass hour, then you would be fined on the spot. So Sweden was full of French people that went in there, and they were telling me these things. I'm like, wow, I thought I had it bad in the UK, but they don't really check that stuff. Like, I was out all day during the summer, and you meant to only stay within a certain distance of your house and only for a certain length of time. But there's no way they could check.
No.
In France, they went the next level and went, oh, we're going to check, and we're going to make you book in when you have your freedom hour. And
it doesn't even sound like it's comprehensible, like that would actually happen, especially in a European city, as opposed to, we'll just kill all of our Russian fans right now or somewhere like that,
Yeah. You think it's the dictatorship ones. You think that would happen with, aren't you? You don't think, oh, France is technically a democracy.
No,
they won't imprison their people and let them out for an hour a day. Like, literally, like prisoners. You get your hour of freedom a day to walk in the yard. that's what they did to the whole population. And yeah, I couldn't believe it when I heard it. And one of the guys actually had one of his passes with him. He's like, I'm going to keep this. This is like a historical document that it's going to be like, the Nazi passes and the Nazi card things.
Yeah.
This is our equivalent. It's happening right now. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. But
it's funny. It's either I can't work out whether it's completely misreading or it's the fact that it's escalated. Everyone's kind of taken it. It's got to that point where they're just like, we're fucking not taking this. It's a year and a half later. We know it's not really doing much harm. And the government keeps on trying to step up their precautions, as they're calling it, or rather power grabs. But I said about a year ago, I thought there'd be a politician who'd be dragged out of their house, burned in the street. And I think it's still going to happen because they're still pushing for all these restrictions. And, it's going to be a big revolution. But France should take it one step further and introduce Bitcoin.
That'd be nice. What do you think of the Amazon news, Darnell? Fake news over true news?
I'm going to go with fake news. And the reason why I think it's fake news is because Amazon are the type of company that would happily announce it. I feel, if Bezos is going to the moon and he's done everything else, why wouldn't he actually also come out and say, or not necessarily him, because obviously he's stepping down or stepped down, not too sure in what transitioning period.
He's still chairman.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 16%, which is amazing, isn't it? 16%, and then the world's richest man. But yeah, I think they would just make a bigger announcement about it, and then equally put some on their books as well.
Yeah.
In reality, about their cash reserves last time. I think there's nothing holding them back or stopping them from doing so. What was interesting, talking of Amazon as well, I heard that they had recently given or made a donation to NASA and NASA's space program to help them. I think it was like land some type of ship on the moon or some sort as well. So, in response of that, they'll be getting some sort of government treats as well.
Yeah. Well, weirdly, we know the answer to it now because Amazon did actually formally comment on this story earlier today. And they said they have no intention of accepting Bitcoin this year, and Amazon coin is not a thing. Their rumors are completely false and unsubstantiated. So, yeah.
I thought it'd be true. I thought, but Amazon coin, I looked at it and just thought that's a gift card. What's the point in creating some kind of crypto about your own company when it is, all it is great, I've got a gift card, but you put it in crypto, so you spent a load of money on it. So that's probably the idiot one.
Yeah. I think they've got other things that they could tackle first, like obviously they're going into food. They're already doing it in the US, but globally. And then also healthcare as well, in terms of Amazon healthcare. And you've got the Blue Origin space program as well. Yeah. I would also like to see, and I doubt that it would ever happen, is a Blue Origin X space program. So Elon and Jeff Bezos come together. Never going to happen.
I don't think they need each other. Maybe if they colonize Mars.
They hate each other. That's the problem. They hate each other. Elon calls Blue Origin BO. It's like, great name, BO. What idiot. Yeah. And he said, like, Jeff didn't even go to space. Like, he just scratched the surface. It's weird because there's three of them, isn't it, really? There's Elon, there's Jeff, and Richard Branson.
Yeah.
And Elon and Richard Branson seem to get on in Virgin Galactica, but Jeff and Elon, for whatever reason, they're not billionaire buddies. They just fucking hate each other. So it would be great, I agree, to see collaboration. It would absolutely make sense. But they just don't want to pool resources on that. Because unfortunately, they both have huge egos. I
think it's because Richard Branson's like a minor billionaire, isn't he?
Compared to Elon and Jeff, yeah, he's fucking...
Yeah, it's looking at here, you got 209 million for Jeff, 160 for Elon. And I don't know what businesses generate the most cash for Richard Branson, because it's not the flights, it's probably not the trains. So I don't really know what generates
the trains anymore, is he? But I think he's like he's part owner, isn't he, of loads of various different companies, and he gives the Virgin brand to the
franchise,
company and then takes a cut from that.
Yeah, I think Richard pretty much he's tapped out. He's an old man now.
Yeah,
he's in his 70s, I think. So,
but I do think that he has probably the most worldly view, and therefore probably, if there was ever to be some alignment, he could actually be the person to create that as well. And again, as you said, the collaboration between them all would be so much better if they kind of put the egos to the side and started working together.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever going to happen, because I think they're just both, they're alpha leaders, and they want the final say, don't they? So, because I remember Elon even saying he got his rocket all done, his SpaceX rocket that was going to do whichever mission it was, and he was literally watching The Dictator, I think, with Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yeah.
And the dictator walks in and he sees his rocket and he goes, "I want it taller and pointier." And Elon just thought that was funny, so he went and did it to his team, but then made them do it. He made it bigger and spikier, and he went, "It actually worked. It's a little bit more aerodynamic and but it doesn't really matter. Like you could have a complete square end and it would still fly. The amount of propulsion you give it doesn't need a point, but they look better with points. I wanted it pointier." So and if he's working with Jeff might go in, "No, shut up. Like, we're going to have a rounded top. Like, it doesn't need a point." And you can just see that they would literally fall out over whether the rocket's pointy or not, which has no bearing on whether it's going to be successful. But yeah, unfortunately, Amazon's fake news. And so when all that came out, that was the pullback. So once we hit like 48, and then Amazon formally announced that now we're not buying it. The price almost definitely dumped on that news, because they formally announced. It was a very short little PR statement. They just went, nah. And,
I think, as always, eventually they will, but they don't necessarily need to right now.
No. And I think the most unlikely thing, I think they could accept Bitcoin and put it on the balance sheet, but Amazon coin, I would say, is 100% guaranteed to never happen, purely because look at what happened to Facebook when they tried to introduce Libra. They got hauled up in front of Congress and were like, you're going to challenge the US dollar. Like, forget Facebook. If Amazon created a coin that I buy fucking everything from Amazon. So if they just went, "Look, you get 20% off if you buy an Amazon coin," fuck it. I'm buying some Amazon coin, switching my pounds into Amazon coin, leaving it on there, and just using it. Fine, if that's what Amazon want. And before you know it, the main currency on the globe is going to be Amazon coin now, because that's where we all buy our stuff. So that's a real threat. Like, Facebook is, fine, they got billions of users, but we don't spend money in Facebook yet. They wanted to flip it to that. But in Amazon,
maybe play Farmville.
Yeah, that all died, didn't it? All that bullshit.
Yeah.
But Amazon, that they have a real life economy in there. That's where I spend freaking thousands and thousands every year in that platform. They suddenly went, "You know what? We only accept Amazon coin now, or you get a discount." I can see that being a real threat, and the US government would not allow that. They would come down on Amazon like a ton of bricks, and it just wouldn't be worth it for them. So they have to play nicely with governments.
Again, a collaboration could easily happen there, couldn't it? I think Amazon's have some sort of, because I always get it flashing up, some sort of prepaid card or kind of like credit card, don't they? So they could easily be some sort of payment, but it's not them, again, not their main arm of their business or a key strength of theirs. Maybe even an Amazon and PayPal reunion of some sort.
Yeah. But what else? Oh yeah, so we touched on Elon there, didn't we? Now you put in, is Elon back? Why did you think Elon was back? Go on.
Oh, so he tweeted a tweet with regards to, it was like a bunch of women sat down and he was the dog, and the 8 pints in sort of thing. The government is corrupt. And then the woman's holding the dog, and then obviously she's making sure that the dog doesn't speak 8 pints in. And I think ultimately that was in response to last week's B-Word conference of him talking about Bitcoin and kind of being on the side of, yeah, you shouldn't really trust big governments in the fact that, you know, they are capitulating the American dollar and the kind of whole fractional reserves of banking and everything like that. So, yeah, I was thinking, is this him slowly coming back? And of course, his comments of I may pump, but I don't dump, and then following it up with the tweet. Who knows? What's your thoughts?
It looked good, but then literally as I added, I think as I was reading your comment from Saturday night, I think literally on the screen 10 minutes before, I'd seen Elon bastardize the fucking Matrix meme that is, oh, in the future, you won't have to sell Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin will be money, so there's no selling it. There's no fiat left. He fucking bastardized that and turned Morpheus into a Dogecoin dog. And when Dogecoin's the future, and it's like, you motherfucker. Like, no, you're going after two of my babies now, Bitcoin and the Matrix. Do not do that. Do not put Dogecoin near
I did say though, didn't I? I said in the agenda, this could change between now and Tuesday's recording.
It took about 2 hours for it to change.
Damn you, Elon. What a guy.
But yeah, I do like the fact, I think you spotted it, because I think he is starting to have a bit of an anti-government tint to his conversation, which is encouraging, because he's always been very pro-government every time I've heard him speak. But when it comes to money now, he does seem to be saying they are messing it up. And yeah, and that little meme, even though it was just a meme, where he's silencing the dog, and it's like it's a load of women, isn't it, talking around the table, and they're just talking about something random, and he and she's just going, do not keep saying the government's corrupt, and like every time he speaks, it's just like, yeah, that's because of the government. That's so me. It doesn't matter what conversation it is. It's that's my comment every time. Like, stop bringing it into every conversation. We're just trying to talk about freaking handbags here. But yeah, so I think maybe he is slightly more on our side, but he needs to drop this Dogecoin thing. I know he thinks it's funny, but us Bitcoiners are not going to find it funny. This is such a big distraction to even suggest that Dogecoin is comparable to Bitcoin is so offensive.
Well, here's a question off the cuff then. What's going to kill Dogecoin? Like, I mean, we all know all shit coins end up in the bin eventually, but what do we think is going to kill this? Because he's got a lot of power to continue it. And whilst there's, I don't know, last count, 11,000 altcoins are out there, what's going to be the thing that kills this?
I think it'll be Dink Dunk.
The problem with shitcoins, they never tend to die. So they just, the price just goes 99% down, and it just tumbles along. So one of the things that could kill it, though, and just at least kill the momentum, is 80% of the supply is owned by like 3 guys that created Dogecoin back in the day. So if one of those just start dumping, there's no way that the price will hold up. It will just go 99%. It will be do a Titan. The graph will just go. So a Titan thing could happen. Someone could hack it and then just create a trillion coins for themselves and dump them in every exchange. That could kill it, a hack. But
the thing is, that still hasn't killed Ethereum.
No. Well, weirdly, Ethereum hasn't had a hack as bad as like Titan. So they haven't had an inflation bug where you can just print a trillion Ethereum and then dump them. That's a killer bug when you have an inflation bug.
Yeah.
Ethereum hasn't had that. It's just had hacks where they've created smart contracts and they've put 200 million into a fund, and then the fund wasn't safe and someone filtered out the 200 million and then they rolled the chain back. But yeah, if you get an inflation bug where someone manages to hack the supply, and the thing is with Ethereum and with Dogecoin, they are looking to change stuff, and Elon is pushing them to change the fees per transaction, how many transactions you get through, like the throughput, all these things. As they're making these big changes, if he makes one little mistake and someone manages to sneak in an inflation bug into one of these changes, or a bug appears somewhere else down the chain that was unintended, then it's all over. And it's one of the reasons, like, not only does Bitcoin not do it because it's not needed, they also do not make big change like this because it is so risky. If you make one mistake, you only make one mistake with money. And if you make one mistake, it's over. The experiment's done. And if you get one big inflation bug like that, and everyone just, that one person dumps every coin, print for themselves on every exchange instantly, the price goes to zero. That's what happened. We've seen it happen many times to shitcoins. So maybe that's Dogecoin's end. I more suspect it's just going to be a long, painful death, and it's going to be constantly biting at Bitcoin's heels for years. Because the only thing keeping it going now is like, it was largely a dead coin before. Just Elon just keeps bringing it back, and for as long as he talks about it, it will keep some form of life if he keeps mentioning it, because he's got such a big audience.
Yeah. I think when people then also try to move on to the next big thing as well, so they may liquidate out of Dogecoin and then go into, I don't know, Dink Donk or Cum Rockets, or again, whatever the next thing is.
Well, this is it, isn't it? This isn't someone's belief in an investment or a future of money, future of store of wealth. This is people just looking for the big gamble, which is going to pay off.
Correct.
So they're looking at 10xing, 100xing of money through some shitcoin, doing it onto the next one, to the next one. We know someone who did that, and they suddenly went quiet when the most recent shitcoin went down to God knows what. So it's evident they lost all their fucking money.
Yeah.
That was Mark Cuban, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh no, I'm talking about someone who we actually know.
Closer to home.
Right. Yeah.
So, you got that situation. It's like you always hear about the wins from the gamblers, but you never hear about the losses. That's ultimately all this is. You kind of trying to guess which one's going to get a surge of popularity. Dogecoin had it. I think people are still loitering around it because Elon keeps on tweeting about it. They're hoping for a bit more of a surge, but they'll move on to something else when it somehow gets some popularity. Maybe it gets mentioned by some financial institution and gets to 10x or 100x or whatever it is. And they'll, just try and ride that train like we saw for a few months last year. But that just happened because we had a crypto craze based off the back of Bitcoin. Everyone knows shit, I better move my money out of fiat into Bitcoin. And everyone, I'll move my money into crypto so I can 100x it or 1000x it. And it's just like, that's not what they meant.
Interestingly enough, actually, because I watch Max and Stacey, and it comes on RT News. So a lot of the time I watch it on YouTube, but I actually really like RT News because it talks about the UK from a non-UK perspective. And obviously we all know that newsreels and newscasts are obviously giving their narrative of things. But I was just on their website to see what they say about the France riots. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Obviously, people clashing against COVID and the vaccine passports and the mandates as well. So just to go back onto that, it would be really interesting to see more news stories that are just kind of just neutral and just literally telling us what is actually happening. Because none of this, I never see any of this. Not that I watch or read the news, but when I'm on there and I'm watching Max and Stacey, you get the ticker coming along the bottom, and so you kind of see stuff.
Yeah, in reality, it's things like RT that is more neutral. They do tend to give a much more balanced view, but they're essentially a Russian network.
Russia Today.
So, and even on YouTube, when you're watching it, if you notice it, I think if you're watching on your laptop, it'll have a weird flag at the bottom saying this is Russian funded. It's almost like it's like a warning to say this comes from Russia, so it might be wrong, which is technically it's code for this is actually the truth, hasn't been whitewashed with whatever propaganda from Britain or America that wants you to see the version of this story that suits the government narrative. Because essentially that's why we don't hear about it, right? We had a point on here saying there's a war against the unvaccinated now. This has turned in from a pandemic where at least we were together supposedly fighting a virus, where you can very easily see there that are we fighting a virus, or is just a load of rich, very powerful people just making themselves extremely rich and getting much more control and power over the people, and they're using this disaster as an opportunity to gain more of everything. But now it's turned into they're really dividing and conquering us now, because they really want to earn the maximum amount of money that they can leverage out of this, and they want every single person on the planet vaccinated. I managed to find out over the last couple of days there was a Pfizer contract that was leaked, and these are all highly confidential documents, but there's an actual document that was given to a government that they signed for the Pfizer vaccine. So it had pricing, and the terms that are in there are completely insane. It pretty much says in this document, number one, it says it's $12 per shot. So if you do 8 billion times $12, it's so much money. This is ridiculous amount of money these contracts are worth. But the actual obligations that Pfizer had to do in this contract were insane. They pretty much went, we're going to give you a product that doesn't exist right now, but even if we're going to try our hardest, whatever we get, you have to buy X million quantity of it. You have to buy it. We accept no liability for whether it works. We accept no liability for whether anyone gets hurt at the end of it. There is zero chance of any refunds in the future. You have to pay us on a 3-monthly schedule for all our costs, all our research, plus on top of that, the value of this deal. You're not allowed to use debt to pay it. It has to be cash. The type of things they had in this, they were completely insane. No sane company would ever have signed this contract. You were pretty much, the contract was worth, I think it was worth like 20 billion or something, this one contract. And they basically had to deliver nothing. They just had to try their hardest and deliver something, and they get paid along the way. And then there's no recourse. It's completely insane. And then you see, we're going to link it in the show notes at the bottom, the type of scenes we're seeing in France and around the world, where people are going out protesting, going, we just don't want this thing. Let us live our lives, be normal. We don't want to be locked down.
But they're small protests, so they're about 1,000 people.
I know. That's what you'll see on the BBC. And then, if you go to RT, you will see the zoomed out view, hundreds of thousands of people in the street getting beaten by the police. And
exactly. RT, and in the headline, it says tens of thousands, not a couple.
No, I think we're talking hundreds. So, like, I've seen the shots of London, of Paris, even in the south cities of France, like Nice and stuff. They're just full. Every single street is full.
Do you know what? I'm on it right now, and there's a tweet that literally says, "Unreal numbers on the streets of Paris. Let's see if the mainstream media call it a couple of hundred."
There you go.
It just says that there.
We know they're going to do that. Yeah. And we know that the headline on TV will be, the unvaccinated are spreading variants. They're acting as petri dishes, and you need to get vaccinated to protect yourself, and all this. The standard lines. They're not going to publish that people have had enough, and we don't want your fucking vaccine. We know you've already paid for it. I know the $12 that for my 2 shots. I know you've already taken it out of my tax. I know the company's already made their money. Just flush it down the toilet, and we'll take the L on it. But they fucking want me to take it. It's like, don't put it in my arm. Like, Jesus Christ, just leave me the fuck alone. And they'll go, no, we're going to come and hit you with a stick in the head. It's like, what? For my health? They're like, yeah, for your health.
That's been in the street.
I think I always said it, though. It was like, what I don't like about it is the lack of choice. It's the lack of choice that people were given. So, you want to go to this bar? Well, you need to have this, you need to have your jab, don't you? Oh, do you want to go abroad? Well, you need to have the jab. We're not telling you that you need the jab, but if you want to do certain things, then you must do this. And so it's like really difficult for you to be able to just balance and live your life without doing what they've actually said.
Yeah, well, they've said if you want to go to university, you have to have the jab now, because they're really upset. The 18 to 25-year-olds are telling them to fuck off. And fair play. But now they've gone, right, we're going to cut off education for you. And then they suddenly see a massive spike of kids going to get vaccinated again. And I just know what they're doing is, when you fast forward 10 years and you look back, and people will be telling these stories of how crazy it was, the politicians made to stand there and go, it was never mandated.
It was never
exaggerating.
mandated.
They're exaggerating. We never forced anyone. It was always, we massively respect what people put in their bodies, and they're going to roll out these very politically correct lines. And you go, look, you can't cut off the world and then go,
Yeah.
you can't live your life unless you get vaccinated. Yes, you technically didn't mandate it, but that's such a weasel
You're
way
getting everyone
out.
choice.
You did mandate it, really.
Yeah, but I just feel like it's going beyond that. Like you're saying, in 10 years' time, I don't understand like what the end game of this is. Like literally, it's either going to really go like China, and you won't be able to speak publicly, or it's just going to end all these governments, and it's going to be a new form of money, new form of government. Well, not even government. It's going to be new states who are bidding for your, as in the sovereign individual. I just feel this is literally, they're playing such a hard game. It's going to go extreme either way.
Yeah.
And I just think if it's going to end like China, were like, no, that didn't happen. 10 years ago, it was happy time. We all gave you 2 drinks for the price of 1, and you all danced all night. Yes, you did.
It's strange though, isn't it? It's like history repeating itself in terms of people giving in their gold when, like looking back, you think, well, why did you? They never came to your house with guns and forced you to do so. They just kind of made it out as though you needed to, and people just complied.
Yeah, well, they made it illegal. They just make up laws. They made, that's the classic law that they made on the gold, is that they made it illegal to hold over more than 1 ounce of gold at your home, and the sentences and the punishment for doing so were very, very harsh. And people started shopping each other. And then they never went round the streets and searched people's houses with guns, but people are just terrified of government, and they voluntarily walked their gold into the bank, never to see it again. And when you think like, well, I would never do that, but then look how many people stayed home. Look how many people went out and got vaccinated. These are the little steps that they take to see how far they can push you. And then before you know it, you're living in the Great Reset. And I love the fact that, the guy at the top of the WEF, the World Economic Forum, his name is Klaus Schausch or something. He's brought out a book. It's called COVID-19, The Great Reset. He's fucking written a book on it. Not only does he want to imprison the whole fucking planet in socialism, he's written a book on how, because we've suffered so bad from COVID-19, this is how we reset the world to build back better. And it just basically documents in there where we just need to pay more taxes. We all need to stay home for decades. We need to stop being so obsessed with ownership of stuff. We need to trust the state. And essentially, it's just a whole list of government handouts and government control, and us. We just do what we're told. We don't try and better ourselves. And essentially, capitalism is dead. Socialism is the new future. We all are happy being little worker drones working for our government overlords. He's written a fucking book on it. So now anyone saying that the Great Reset and stuff is fake, like the website on the WF, the Great Reset, where all this came from, is they've got a fucking website on it. Now, just to really hammer it home, he's written a book. Like, not only does he want to rule the world at the top of the WF, he's written a book on it, and he wants to fucking shill that. Like, Jesus, you're not going to be making enough money stealing the world's money. Now you also want a book deal on the way. Got no shame.
Have you read it? Have you read it to actually see what the contents are?
No, I've just heard what people have said about it.
That's a bit Chinese whispers.
It's okay. Well, fucking have a look at the Great Reset website. Like the website, I know it's just going to be a book about the website, and I've read the website, and it is socialism.
I'm looking on Amazon right now. It's there. It's a 280 pages, published on the 9th of July 2020. He's also got another book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution, which the two are brought together. That was that was published in 2017. But it would be interesting. Maybe, do you know what? Well,
what's his
one
name?
of us has to take the plunge, read the book, and then come back on the podcast with the facts. As you know, we need to don't trust, verify.
What's his name? What's the author?
Klaus Schwab and Thierry Malaret.
Yeah, there's a lot of suspicion around this guy because he's come from nowhere. He's one of the most powerful guys on the planet now, but he's in an unelected position. because the WF and the WHO, no one elects these people. They're just jobs. Yeah, you apply to work in them, you get them, and you're CEO of essentially an independent organization, a little bit like the banks. So the most powerful people on the planet you can't vote them out. They're just in normal salary jobs. This guy came from nowhere. His background is very suspicious, as in it isn't very notable. Yeah, he's in such a powerful position. So the second I see someone like him, let's go, he's a puppet. He's the guy they shove at the front. He'll take the fall if anything goes wrong. But fundamentally, there's people behind him, and he essentially, they look for people that are compliant. Who's going to basically say what he needs to say, make sure he puts the things forward that need to be put forward, and just not question. He's a yes man. He's been probably plucked from obscurity, given a hugely prolific kind of like job role now, made himself a bit of a celebrity. He's bringing out his own books. And but for that, it's you start this process off.
And funnily enough, actually, I'm reading here that he's then created and penned another book. And this one it was published on the 27th of January, 2020, called Stakeholder Capitalism. And in it, he accurately describes the real situation, or our real situation, and in the book is able to pinpoint achievable ways to deal with our problems. Chapter by chapter, Professor Schwab shows us that there are ways for everyone at all levels of society to reshape the broken pieces of the global economy, and country by country, company by company, and citizen by citizen, glue them back together in a way that benefits us all.
Yeah,
really,
because that all sounds fantastic, doesn't it?
Really,
but if you listen to any dictator, they'll tell you that.
Exactly.
So basically, it's a central dictator of the world is what they want. Okay, that kind of fits in with what what's his name, Biden's been saying about this corporation tax across the planet and things such as that. Yeah. I mean, personally, I just don't think it'll go that far. Obviously, certain people want certain things, like him and Soy Gates. But I just feel like the people are revolting now. I think this is only the start of it, and they keep on pushing. It's going to get worse. And then the government will really find out the power of the people. We've seen it in Australia. It's a couple hundred people. They started trying to beat the protesters, but they continue. The police are going to get overrun.
Well, we're already seeing that in the US, people are cutting the budgets back, aren't we, for their various different state police, and I think that'll be the case, globally. But it's not necessarily the government. Sorry, the police cuts that you want to make the cuts to. It's the government.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I saw 2 stories today, talking about how protests supposedly work and these kind of riots. People get arrested in these things, and 2 that happened about 6 months ago. So you had the Hong Kong riots, and then you had January 6th, the Capitol riot, and they're in sentencing at the moment. And those people that got arrested, they've just been held, haven't been charged with anything yet, well, haven't been sentenced at least, and they're starting to get sentenced now, and they're getting life imprisonment for being terrorists and traitors. And this is the type of thing, like, you need to know who we're fighting here, right? The government, when they get hold of you, they'll put you in prison for life. They'll destroy it, and they'll make an example of you, because they know how dangerous these riots are. They can, especially in Hong Kong, China nearly got overthrown in Hong Kong and had to just go, fuck it, we've lost control of Hong Kong. So everyone they grabbed, they will never get out of prison again. The guys in the Jan 6th government capital riots, I think that was a total sham, and comparing it to the Hong Kong riots, I think Hong Kong was very real. The Jan 6th was just complete.
They let them in.
Yeah,
that was the weirdest thing.
They opened the doors, let them in, and then went, "Oh, they breached our security. They're going to kill all the politicians." Like, fuck off! No, not.
And they just went around the building, sat in some chairs, took some photos, and then went, and then they started firing gas into some kind of chamber. Was what I saw.
Yeah, it was so set up. Yeah, but some of the people that I think there's undoubtedly some actors that led them in, and then the police let them in. But then there's some real protesters that walked in behind them. And they're the ones that got fucked up because they didn't get the memo of, oh, you were allowed in for 15 minutes, take some photos, then you got to get out. They went, no, we're in here now, and refused to leave. That's when the real police went, all right, we're going to show up now, and started firing. And they're the ones that got arrested. They're the ones that got killed. And they're the ones getting sentenced to life imprisonment for trying to take down the Capitol. So it's going to be interesting, I think, when you watch it play out over the next year to go, how far did these protests get? And because in reality, all they want is everyone to get the vaccine. Once they get over a certain number, they'll go, okay. You know, they're trying to they know it's going to get to boiling point. They don't want it to boil over. So they'll get as many people vaccinated as possible. If they think it's going to get too high, they'll just bring down the pressure. And bring down the pressure is super easy. You just give someone some freedom back and go, look, you won. And in reality, they're winning because every time they do it, more people get vaccinated and they make another couple of billion. So I think they hold all the cards. They can imprison this.
I feel this is like the boiling point. So I think they've got to back off now. And it's like, I don't think half measures are going to cut it with quite a lot of countries. So we've seen, you get a lot of vocal doomers, as we call them, but also bots on the internet saying, you know, blah, blah, blah. Because we've all seen a post where it's really dramatic post, but then you actually just search the terms and it appears 26 times across Twitter. So I just feel like this is the boiling point, but it's like, what do you kind of back down to? And I think that if they don't back down enough, there's going to be more issues. Like we've seen it with Australia. Like I've seen some of the posts saying I think it was this person doesn't deserve, you know, if you're protesting, you don't deserve this and this and this. It's just like, I think I dropped the post into the chat because I saw it on LinkedIn. It didn't deserve to be on LinkedIn. I hate that mix. But I saw it and thought, well, you know, they're protecting their freedom. And like, you cannot see this for some reason. So yeah, it'll be interesting, but I think we're at pretty much boiling point, and the governments keep on pushing. They're going to get beaten down.
Yeah, it's very interesting, that social media stuff you mentioned, because I saw one of those copy and pastes of, oh, my brother didn't get the vaccinated, and then now he's in A&E. He's in the ICU, and it's just that classic copy and paste thing. One of the guys that had posted that was his bio had 200,000 followers, and he was a doctor. So, and I looked down his feed and was like, is he just a bot? Is this a fake account? It didn't seem to be. This guy seemed to have an account for a decade. He's been tweeting and completely normal. And then he's obviously been caught now, copy and pasting government propaganda, pretending his brother is in the ICU. His brother clearly is not in the ICU, because if you copy and paste his tweet, it comes up 200 times word for word on dozens of other accounts, and he isn't the first one to post it. So are they paying off doctors just to copy and paste tweets on their Twitter now?
Well, if you look at some of the stories, or what was it, people in hospital, they've been doing it in America, and then there's just been these comments of like, here's his acting bio taken from this website, and here's a list of all his credits. It's just like, why are actors suddenly getting ill?
Yeah.
That was the Jan 6 riots as well. The main guy that was like the headline guy of it, you know, the guy with the big freaking fur and the horn.
Oh yeah, the classic, the Jamiroquai.
Yeah, Jamiroquai. Yeah,
Jamiroquai.
He was like rioting Jamiroquai. He has an acting profile. He has a load of credits in films and stuff. You're like, he's a fucking actor. Why are you putting the lead guy? Obviously, you probably need an actor to lead that well and be that convincing and stand there in the middle of Congress, wasn't it? Like holding something up. It was like the fall of America. It was like the perfect picture, but it was just a little bit too comical. It's like, this is a cartoon character. This guy is clearly acting. He isn't a real protester. He's never been to a protest in his life.
He turned up about 2 months before, apparently. That's when they started seeing him at rallies.
Yeah.
He wasn't anything long term, so it's a bit odd. Like, but there is definitely propaganda here. I feel we've kind of like got stuck on this because I know we all probably would end up speaking about this all night because it's so weird. It is a really weird world, admittedly, at the moment.
Yeah. Let's just like deviate slightly then into the topic that I put on here. I think you mentioned this first, actually, Ross. I think it was, and it's the Netflix show, How to Become a Tyrant.
Yeah.
And
I've not watched it. So
yeah.
I've only watched the first episode, and I think it's just setting the scene. I remember like messaging the group because I was watching it. I was going, this, all the kind of like schemes which they're talking about in Russia, in Germany, they've all been happening over the last 18 months, and it's really, really odd. And it's like, it's the fact that Netflix have obviously paid for this show, put it on Netflix, advertised it, and you kind of like, are you just trying to put this in front of everyone and say, look at what's happening? It seems a little bit too well timed by Netflix.
Yeah. And it is quite a good show, although you can tell it's been written and produced by Americans, because the people that get thrown under the bus are the Russians, the Chinese, obviously the Germans, and then Iraq and Libya.
Yeah, but it's written for the Americans, so it's got to write about the common enemy, so we can actually see what's happened with them to then relate it back to what's happening at the moment.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's just the fact that it's always funny in the fact that we always demonize the same countries, and we pretend that America and Britain aren't just as bad, and
yeah.
We
had this conversation at the weekend because I was getting asked, what mobile phone should I get? And I was just like, I don't know. They're all pretty much the same. You can get Huawei or an Apple. I don't want a Huawei. I don't want to be spied on by the Chinese. So I was like, do you think the Americans are any better? Do you think they've suddenly stopped doing atrocities just because they control the media? And they're like, true. So I'm like, pick your poison, Chinese or American.
Yeah.
They're just as bad as each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because weirdly, in their final episode, I found their final episode probably the best, because they go on to North Korea and they really break it down as to how essentially North Korea went from the whole of Korea all joined up, but they learned apparently from the Soviets, and North Korea took over and decided to take control of their region. And now when you look back at it, they're the most controlled people on the planet. And they just go, how did they manage that? And there was a number of steps they went through to get to where they got to. Because if you do any of these too fast, the population rebel and will overthrow you. So you have to do it gradually. And then eventually you end up imprisoning everyone. And they don't realize how they got there because you have to get into their heads. So the first thing was isolation. Everyone got banned from traveling. They closed the borders. They said they were at war with various people. They weren't, but they said they were. They isolated everyone, cut off all forms of media coming in. They then censored. They took over the media. They made them all government propaganda machines. So every piece of media that went out into the mainstream was government approved stuff. So nothing outside. So they completely only government news started coming in. You can't leave the country either because the borders are closed.
Sounds similar.
Exactly. Then they ensure a succession plan. So this was the family. I forgot what they know. What they called the
John. Is it
John Kim or something?
Oh, Kim Jong-un's family.
Those guys.
Yeah.
So they're in
Kim Jong-il, isn't it? No.
Yeah. So they installed their family. So that basically meant there was no election process. They made themselves into gods and they just pass it down bit by bit. And weirdly, when you look in, let's just take Britain, right? We don't have a family that are in charge of our country. But look at where all our prime ministers come from. They all come from Eton.
Where did Keir Starmer go?
No clue. Labour don't tend to be Eton boys. They tend to be the Conservatives. But yeah, literally, there's that photo, isn't there? I think there's Tony Blair, Boris Johnson, and David Cameron, all in the same graduation picture. So come on, like to say we don't have succession planning in Britain, clearly it's the same fucking class of lads that get voted in as prime minister. This is not this class is not like the class of '92 for Man United. These guys just are on the favourable list.
It's the conveyor belt, basically.
Yeah, it's the succession planning. They went through. They know the game. They're the old boys club, even though they were young boys at the time, getting trained into this is how you act and this is what you're going to do when you get there. So there's a succession plan. Then you have to silence anyone that speaks out. So any dissenters get treated extremely harshly.
You mean like all the conspiracy theories, when we came up with a Wuhan leak and they're like, no, you're just a conspiracy theorist, stop talking nonsense. A year later, oh yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. So literally you go through it like, isolation, bang, lockdown, borders closed. sense of the media. Well, we've just talked about that. The only media that are talking sense are the Russian-funded ones. Anyone funded by America or Britain, 100% government focused.
For about 4 months of the year, they wouldn't even report that anything, was untoward about COVID, would they? It was just doom, doom, doom. It was that first 4 months, which was generally very, very, very weird.
Yeah. Worthwhile picking up on what you said there, by the way, guys, in terms of, so I was watching Netflix because I heard a stat that recently they've lost a bunch of subscribers in their Q2 report. And I was just hold on, I'm still paying for my Netflix. I better be getting my money's worth. Like, I'm going to go back on there. But to be fair, I don't know why if I'm just like returning back to normality, just watching other things, because certainly through COVID, I think I completed Netflix. And yeah, there wasn't much that I hadn't already seen. But I was watching the Explained series, and on the Explained series, it was royalty. And just coming back to your point about prime ministers and the succession planning, and it talked about obviously the British monarchy and the way that it ruled, but the way that other monarchies kind of shaped their whole ethos on the British monarchy, and obviously the succession planning, and probably, a fact known to most people listening and watching, but the fact that Queen Elizabeth and what's his name that just died, Edward, were third cousins, so like essentially like, they were, everyone was marrying into the family, so it was already planned.
I know it never falls far, does it? It's why, there's loads of conspiracies around the royal family. Anyone that doesn't fit in. So the two women that didn't fit in, that came from different backgrounds, Diana, back in the day, she mysteriously dies in a car crash. And then you've got Meghan Markle comes in, first ever non-white person to marry into the royal family. Within 2 years, she's run back to America, just going, I don't fit in, I don't want to be here. That's what happens when someone infiltrates and breaks the succession planning. They don't last long. They're gone. Whereas you've got these robots. When you see like who William's married to, what's her name? Kate. I don't think she's a real person. I swear she's a robot, because she's just a perfect little princess, isn't she? She never says the wrong thing. She looks perfect.
She's slotted in like she was always there, absolutely. And I do believe that. Do you guys watch the that Oprah interview?
No, I never watched it actually. No.
I've got a strong belief in the fact that the things that they said, and they talked about the institution and the way that things are run, and they would never ever go against the institution. And effectively, it's like a board, and the board tell the royal family what they need to do, say, wear, talk, etc. And they have a thought about it, and they're like, yeah, okay, we agree with that. And they never, ever want to upset the apple cart in the fact that the people will rebel against them, because essentially, as we know, we're the ones that are paying for everything in their lifestyles. All they need to do is just continue to be themselves, but behind closed doors. Get on a balcony, wave for half an hour, and then we're happy. And, we see the same faces again and again, and that familiarity, given the fact that the Queen's been in power for so long. It's like the longest, literally, it was funny how they said it's like the longest running reality show.
It pretty much is a Truman Show, isn't it?
Yeah. When you think about it, it really is, isn't it? Like, you get snippets of what's going on, and we'll have a baby, and we'll have a marriage, and we'll have a divorce, and someone new, a new character might come into it, and will that character work out? And you think, wow, yeah.
That is what they are. They are reality show. But what was interesting about what you said there is there's a board above the royal family.
Yes.
Who the fuck's on this board? Who are they? How did they get there? And why they're making the decisions they make, and what are the consequences for those guys if they make a mistake, or someone gets extradited, and this is the thing that behind everything, there's this secret board of unknown people that ultimately are making the calls. And you go, who the fuck are these people? Because they are the people that I want to hold to account. Because I just, like, the royal family are just a joke as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, they're a reality TV show. They're a tourist attraction. They're relatively harmless. They take shit tons of our tax money, but whatever. Apparently they make it back in tourism. I don't get a cut of the tourism personally, so I don't fucking give a shit. But they do take a cut of my taxes, so I know I pay them that way. I keep missing the money that keeps coming back my way. I keep missing my tourism check. Just keeps getting lost in the post. But by and large, they're unoffensive. They don't affect my life, so I just go whatever. It's a bullshit thing that I don't need to care about.
I want a tourism check.
yeah. Fucking how many little corgi fucking plushies the Queen sold? Like fucking millions of the things. Where's my cut?
They gave a stat of something like 700 million, or it was something ridiculous, like how much the royal family. I'll Google it while we're talking.
Yeah, but it's the men in the back. It's weird because it's weirdly. I remember like being like working in the company you work for. So often there would be people that would have gripes about the company and be like, oh, this decision, that decision, and all this type of stuff. And there was always this almost like conspiracy theory that there was this mystery room somewhere where this mystery, like 3 or 4 guys go and sit in. It's a dark room full of smoke. They go in and just make crazy decisions and come out, and we always have to comply to them. And this room did not exist. And quite often, sometimes people would be complaining to me and my team about decisions. And I would be like, oh, I made that one. And this is why we made it. And then suddenly they'd be like, oh, okay. And this conspiracy theory just went away because, real people right in front of you are making the decisions. Sometimes you get it right. Sometimes you get it wrong. It is what it is. But when we look on a global scale, these like mystery rooms that are dark with just 4 guys in full of smoke, and they come out and go yes, no to whatever decision that they've decided. It does seem like that exists. It seems to happen. It's in the WF. It's in the World Health Organization.
You're going down the rabbit hole tonight, Gaz.
I know. If this is the topic,
you need to replace your cat with some tin foil.
Keep out the 5G.
19 billion apparently. 19 billion pounds.
Topic where we're talking about how to become a tyrant.
Yeah.
Good show. Yeah. Like I watched one episode. I need to watch it all, but I kind of reverted back to Narcos, which I'm still working my way through.
Oh, that's way better.
Yeah.
That was my kind of thought. Is I want to finish that series, and then I've got a Narcos Mexico, and there's also El Chapo as well on Netflix, which I've watched.
They're all great.
I need a bit of escapism, as I spend so much time listening to things on Audible. I spend so much time reading about various things, non-fiction. So I feel that TV programs are my kind of only real escape.
Yeah, it's funny enough. I was messaging Gaz about something similar as well. Just like, still, I like to use my time in regards to learning. But another podcast that I've come across, which is The Diary of a CEO. So I definitely feel you on those. Given the fact that again, I feel like I've completed Netflix.
Yeah, because the good thing about Narcos is it technically isn't entertainment. It's a true story. It's technically a documentary. They've obviously dramatized it quite a bit and put good actors in it and all that. But the crazy thing is, it's fucking true. And even that has good conspiracy theories in, right? Because how did El Chapo and stuff get so big? How did he end up virtually running a country? How did he get so many drugs into America? And fundamentally, it semes like the US government allowed them to do it because they wanted to destabilize Miami because they had a massive, they wanted to get a load of people in prison. They would open up a load of prisons. They needed to fill them. So they got a load of drugs in just so then they could, and also it was a racist thing apparently as well, because they weren't that far out of the slavery type thing and black people were everywhere. And they kind of went, you know what? We want an excuse to put a load of these guys in prison, and for a long time. So they let El Chapo, they kind of turned a blind eye and in some instances helped him and provided undercover agents to give him planes and not shoot him down and then land, because the second like they caught him and decided and the drug thing got out of control, a lot of it stopped. But by then they had an entire generation of people hooked on drugs, an entire generation of people who made their income from drugs, and whole communities were destroyed, and the whole cycle of jobs and kind of the American dream were dead for them. they were now in crap neighborhoods full of violence, guns, drugs, and that just propagated and ultimately kept the prisons full and the politicians rich. They gave them loads of licenses to increase budgets for prisons, politicians, lawyers, judges to imprison all these people. So it is bizarre. Like every story fucking comes back to the same thing, which is government corruption.
Do we need to take a break while you're lining your cap with tin foil?
It's not only that. You must have heard of Freeway Rick.
No, I haven't actually.
So Rick Ross took his name from the real Rick Ross, and Freeway Rick worked with the people down in Mexico to bring drugs into the US as well. And huge, absolutely huge, definitely worthwhile taking some time to get to know him. But essentially, he said that the US government allowed or essentially planted drugs and crack in the hood.
Yeah.
Because he knew that, obviously those people would then get addicted to it. And, it decimated a whole generation of people. And then it hurt people because people our age were effectively the descendants and obviously, from their parents that were addicted to this. And so many people were lost. But it didn't just end up there by itself. It was allowed.
No, it is by itself. It just appeared. I mean, this is the type of government which would, they'd only do little things like experiment with LSD, meth, amphetamines on the public who were unsuspecting. They'd only inject them with various viruses to see what would happen. They wouldn't do things like that. They wouldn't plant drugs. Don't be silly.
Yeah. I'm going to put
But they're squeaky clean now.
But
they do nothing bad.
It's really weird though as well, because I think in the 80s you also had Ronald Reagan talking about the Say No to Drugs campaign. So on the one hand they were doing this, but then on the other they were actually giving people the drugs. So yeah.
Well, that's the classic divide and conquer, isn't it? They made drugs the number one topic, as they knowingly were turning a blind eye to El Chapo shipping in truckloads or like literally plane loads of the stuff. And they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
It gave them a perfect excuse. They had already demonized people that take drugs are essentially the worst human beings on the planet. And they shipped in a shit ton of drugs into low income areas. And then what happened? Those low income people, they grabbed it and started making money, and they just rounded them up and shoved them in prison, and everyone cheered it on. It's the same model, and they're doing it now. Like drugs isn't the bad thing; it's the anti-vax now. It's and they demonize that.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do we want to move on to?
Talking about government, maybe about inflation. So it's not inflation; it's supply shortages causing price increases. So I looked at this tweet which you posted, and
AOC.
I think it was is she a senator in the Democrats? And below it, you got people saying, blah, 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 it's inflation. And someone saying, no, it's not, because it will return back to normal. And this is just down to demand. And someone just said, are you for real? In 3 years' time, will it be more expensive or won't it? No reply off the person, but I was just like, you got some people who believe anything which their favourite person, whether it be an actor, politician or whatever, will say. And this is one of them. It is proven inflation, but they're like, look at consumable electronics. TVs are much cheaper if you consider the fact that we used to have little black and white boxes, and now we've got big 62-inch screens or whatever it is, which come with sound bars and whatever, and you can get that for like 500 quid. Whereas a little TV would cost, an absolute fortune back in the day. So that's not inflation. But it just seems ridiculous. Like, so she was saying that prices will go back down, but then, you need to revisit that in 2 years' time. So fair enough, we could have a supply shortage of wood and all that, but in 2 years' time, I guarantee the prices will be up. We may have had a slight fluctuation because whilst everyone's been on furlough, they have done these projects at home, but you're still going to see a significant increase from, say if we say March 2020 as a date to look against. And she did look like she was lying. She was overly expressive. You know, when you got someone who's in front of a camera, you could just see straight through her.
To be fair, she is like that. But yeah, I think this is the beauty in a lie like that. So she essentially went on and just saying inflation isn't a real thing. The only reason things cost more is because there's been a shortage. And she even goes back to the whole Suez Canal. And I'm very suspicious. I know it's yet again another conspiracy theory. But that big ship getting stuck.
Welcome to the conspiracy theory show.
Yeah. But that whole ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal during the middle of a pandemic, the second I saw it, and it was stuck there for like 2 weeks, and they got the smallest little digger. It was like a little digger trying to dig out the end. It's like, this is the most important trade route in the fucking world, and one ship has just fucking T-boned it and blocked the entire thing. And straight away I went, why would, like, number one, whenever you think of a conspiracy theory, you go, why would someone have done that? And you go, well, what it does is it gives them a reason to suddenly say the reason there's been supply shortages is, well, number one, because of COVID-19. Number two, because the Suez Canal got blocked for 2 weeks. So now when inflation goes up, they can go, don't worry, it's temporary. And the genius thing about the comment that she made is that you start a big lie off with a bit of truth. And I think she even brought up the timber thing, which is, yes, there is a supply shortage on timber, largely because the supply has been reduced from China and stuff, plus more people have been buying it. And now the price of timber went up by 10x. It's come back down to pretty much the same price now. So timber has not inflated vastly from where it was a couple of years ago. So it's a perfect example to go, that is true. It was a supply shortage. People just wanted more of it. Supply and demand, price went up. Once the lockdown stopped, price plateaus out again. But you're cherry picking data. You've taken one example that is true and then extrapolated it over, well, hold on, the whole basket of goods that the average American or just the average British person is buying has gone up by 8 or 10%. That is real. That is not shortages. That isn't supply and demand. That is real. That is across every single thing we buy.
And if you look at it across big assets, which the rich want, it will have had that full effect of a 20% increase, which the US put into the supply. So houses
and the stock market. Yeah. Houses in the stock market are up 20-40%.
Yep.
That is where the majority of the money went. So if you're a normal person that goes, oh, great, I want to get into investing now. Yeah, good luck. You're buying the very top. It's 40% higher than it's ever been. Oh, I'm a first-time buyer. I want to get into the housing market. Good fucking luck. House prices are up 15% from last year. Good luck.
Good luck. And they're also, I know, from a property perspective, requesting that you put down a higher percentage if you want to buy from a deposit perspective as well. So You're looking at standard deposit was 10% for your normal, residential property. You might be looking at 15%, which is a lot more based on the fact that the average house price is a lot more, of course. And then if you're looking at a rental perspective, the normal 25% that they want is now 35%. So that's a big chunk of change before you've done anything, before your stamp duty, your solicitor's fees, and then, of course, if you're doing any renovation work.
What that ultimately means is rent goes up.
100%. Rent goes up means that those people that are in the game make it even harder for those that are in the rental market to ever get out of that game. And obviously, as you said, for people to get onto the ladder, you cannot, or it's very, very difficult, as they make it, rent and then save at the same time with inflation happening everywhere else on everything else.
It's just like they think everyone's stupid, but I think
but they are. No one sees this.
But this is what I was going to say. It's a very few who actually understand what inflation is, and you've got a lot of people saying it doesn't happen. But it's like, how come a house costs, say, what's the average house price now? 270 grand in the UK?
I think so. It may even be closer.
And then if we go back to 2000 as an example, I think it was 200 grand.
Yeah.
No, actually, it would have been probably lower than that.
No, it was lower than that. Yeah. I think it was about 180.
Then you go back to 1990 and so on. And this is a prime example. Look at assets which the rich want in order to establish what inflation is. Don't look at consumables to work it out. Obviously, cars you're going to see because there's things like steel in there and other valuable parts which the rich want as assets.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. What they do is they build a moat around the stuff that they have. And so that's why, if you want to be a VC, venture capitalist, and invest in small businesses, you have to have a net worth of over 2 million to be an accredited VC to invest in new business. Why are they doing that? Because that's where the majority of the gains that the rich make is by getting in early. They spread their money across loads of new businesses. When they pump up to crazy, the plebs can finally get in by the time it's IPO'd in year 10. They've been in since day one. You get in year 10. And they're doing the same on property now. They brought in loads of laws. And essentially what they're doing, laws, regulation, barriers, just make it as hard as possible for, number one, anyone to get on the property ladder.
Yeah.
But then really go in, we do not want a massive buy to rent property market. We don't want to kill it. Because
there's something around taxes when we first made a big revamp, which was the first kind of like pain to property investors. So basically, someone who's bought one or two properties to use their pension, as the example, because problems with the stock markets, problem with pensions, so you wanted to invest in something more solid. So they brought in this law to discourage people to do it. And then we said, oh yeah, but if you have over 7 properties, that doesn't count. So that is literally, that was what they did initially, but I think enough people kicked off with like, what the fuck are you doing? That is literally the elite cutting off the plebs.
Yeah.
They probably just raised it higher and just hid it.
Well, there's a lot of property investors right now that are getting out because of these laws, and they obviously know what it used to be like back in the day. So they are coming out and thinking, nah, I'm not making as much profit or any profit than what I used to make. Whereas for people like myself that are just getting into it, we're like, oh, well, this is new to me, so I'll take whatever I can get because I'm used to this. So that's it. But I'm sure I'll be squeezed as things and time.
But the thing is, as the supply disappears, rent is ultimately going to go up. So then you'll start making a profit again. And it's a vicious cycle, and it's the interference which has caused this.
That's if you can stay in the game, because what I can see, what they'll end up doing is they'll go, oh, you need certain fire regs, certain COVID-19 regs. They'll keep doing it. And if you're a billionaire, you've got 1,000 properties, you just go, fuck it. I'll take the hit and make no profit this year to roll out and comply to all the regs. Little independents like you suddenly go, well, that's my entire profit for like 2 years to just comply to this thing. You just go, all right, fine. You beat me. I'm out. And they're like, yes. And then your property gets bought up by the guy that's got 1,000 properties and just bundles it in. And this is the whole thing.
On the head, mate.
This
is actually happening. Absolutely is happening. There's the electrical EPC regulations, so that you need to do that every 5 years. There's loads of things that are happening with regards to that to make sure that people are on their game. And again, if you're not on it, and obviously your tenants shop you, then you're out the game. And there was also Article 24 as well, which was with regards to certain things that you needed to do with your tenants as well. Average house price right now, £268,000 in the UK. So therefore, we all know.
Have you got a price for 2000?
I'll go back actually. I'll have a look on the index.
So I think this is just the point around inflation, because we need to look at what the comparative is. So the average salary, I think in the UK, is just below 30 grand, and I think if you look at just full-time jobs, so that is a selective bunch because you're taking away the part-times, but also you've got the unemployed, which doesn't count towards it. So I think it's around about 38 grand for a full-time employee. So 268 you should be looking at around about times 4 for a viable mortgage. So average salary does not equal average house price.
No,
So
what's
this
that?
is
Times 7.
so yeah. So this is one of the things which I was reading about how we kind of adjusted to 2 parents working in a household.
Mm-hmm.
But the working week doesn't work with that, because it used to be one parent worked, one parent stayed at home, and a 40 to 60-hour work week is not workable with both parents doing that and with kids. And it is one of those things I was saying to myself, has this been intentional that we've ended up down this route? So we've ended up with more debt and more people kind of straddled with it.
I think ultimately it's a very, I think it's potentially an unfortunate mistake, because what happened is when you had one parent going to work, essentially the average income was half. So house prices couldn't be what they are today if one person in a household was working. But all that happened when we thought that both parents would go to work, we thought the standard of living for families would go up. And fundamentally, all that really happened is they either stayed the same or went down, because once you this is like the whole minimum wage thing, right? If the minimum wage is £10, you double it to 20, guess what happens? The price of goods doubles to basically stay in line, because if that's the bottom, then a Mars bar is not going to cost 20p, it's going to cost 40. And I think that's what happened with single to double income families.
But
The
do you think
average
it was
house price was 100k, then suddenly we had 2 incomes, house prices doubled to 200k. The families are no better off. All that's happened is now one of the parents has to work as well, and the only people that actually genuinely suffer are the kids, because they don't get a parent that's at home with them. Both parents are out working.
So this is kind of like one, I suppose, going down the whole of conspiracies. Do you think it's been
That's
intentional?
what we're doing tonight. Let's keep diving and digging. Keep going.
Because do you think it's been intentional to ladle people with more debt to help the elites create more profit by getting it into dual parents working?
I think so, because if you look at the average retirement age, it's going up as well. And so I think they just want people to be in that workforce. It benefits them.
I think this kind of goes down. I know we've probably got sidetracked too much without relating back to the point of Bitcoin. So this is, going back to a fairer society, the whole point of Bitcoin, the whole principles. I've been listening to what is it? Don't fuck with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I've been listening to that on Audible. Great book, and it has touched upon some of these equality things. And I think the great hope is that using a solid currency which can't be inflated, it can't take retirement ages away from you, and you can actually plan for your future based upon what you can earn. So imagine if your job actually paid you Bitcoin or SAT or whatever you want to call it, then you'd actually go, well, I need to build this amount store of wealth in order to live for 25 years after I've retired, and you'd actually have an amount. Whereas at the moment, I've been thinking, because we've talked about retirement planning before, and you can come up with some, I need, say, 30 grand a year. Okay, times that over 25 years or 30 years. Okay, that's 900 grand. Then, inflation every year. How are you going to calculate that over the next 30 years, how that rises up? And it takes it away from you, because instead of 900 grand, what do we say the currency doubles within 15 years?
Yeah.
So your calculations are going to have to be 60 grand for after 20 years of you retiring. That's taking your life and your time away from you.
Yeah, and the huge challenge of that type of stuff is it adds a huge amount of risk, because if you'd managed to save, say using your number there, say let's round it up to £1 million. So you're going to retire £1 million on a Bitcoin standard. You're fine. That £1 million when you're 80 is still going to be the million, and you're going to be spending it along the way.
You're just cutting it down bit by bit every year with your budget.
And it's going to be holding its value. It's not going to deflate. If you were to do that today, so how would you have to do that today? You can't hold that in cash. It's impossible. If you hold 900k, in 20 years time, that 900k, is going to be worth, less than half. So about 30%. So it's going to have the spending power 300k.
Yeah.
So number one, you can't put it in cash. You've done great in your career. You've saved £1 million, but the game's not up yet. You have to invest it. So now
let's put that a different way. You've got to gamble it in order to win. It's not assured that you are going to win.
No.
You have to gamble it in order to try and win.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, because even if you invest it, right, and you invest in some of the safest stocks, so I would say Amazon, Apple,
Unilever.
Microsoft. Yeah, the biggest companies in the world that are super safe, the entire world relies on. Even those guys are not immune. In the next 20 years, we can have a big recession. Yeah. And the entire market drops by 40%. That can absolutely happen. Anyone that thinks it can't is an idiot. Just look at history. Every 15 to 20 years, the market dumps 40%. It always recovers and goes to all-time highs. Sometimes it takes a year to come back. Sometimes it takes 10 to come back. If you're doing your retirement funds on that, you could be just cutting towards the end, and all your money has to be in the stock market. So even though you are technically retired and you want to be playing it as safe as possible, cash isn't safe because that's eroding by 10% a year. So you have to play it safe, put it into the stock market, and then boom, another 9/11 happens, whatever, and the stock market drops by 40%. Suddenly your retirement goes from having 30 years worth of money sat there to 15, and you're 65, 70.
I'm also going to say on that, you've got to be really, really cautious because of the speed of technology these days, because the S&P 500 and the companies that are on the S&P 500 are obviously changing. So I think 75% that were there maybe 25, 30 years ago aren't there, and obviously being replaced by the ones that are there, but they won't be there perhaps. And I'll say, even the top ones where we think they're too big to fail, in the next 15 to 20 years, they could be easily replaced. And again, it's easy to say, well, I don't think that they will, but the way that things have changed already, they never thought that those ones that were at the top spot before would now no longer be there.
Who were the top 5, say, 15 years ago? Yeah. So that's probably...
It's the same 5.
Well, it wouldn't be. So what's top now? It's Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft,
Google. It's FANG. So
FANG. Yeah,
Facebook, Apple, Amazon. Well. It's the same. The last 30 years, since the internet came out, it's been standard. But yeah, if you go 30 years plus back, it's the banking and oil companies then.
But you'd say if you cut out, say, before 2005, you wouldn't have Facebook, you wouldn't have Google, so you'd have Microsoft.
Well, I don't know. I think it's the banks and the...
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to know maybe oil companies.
Yeah, it was oil and banking. Oil and banking was the original, and then it flipped to internet companies once the internet hit in 2000.
I do look at Facebook
and iPhone, I'd say, because that's allowed businesses to be able to, things like Uber would have never have been around had it not have been for the iPhone.
Yeah.
See, I look at, say, your Facebook and maybe Apple, but not to the extent, and I do think they're going to fail. But then with Facebook, they come up with their digital crack, Instagram. They move over to that. And did they buy Snapchat?
No, they tried, but they didn't.
That's separate.
So they got
WhatsApp.
Yeah, we bought WhatsApp. So we got WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook. I look at Facebook. It's basically a trailer park, isn't it? It's a trailer park, but people still go there because it's addictive. They get to do their likes, but now it's Instagram because it's put it one level forward. But I do look at it and think, I don't understand where this can go. It's going to run out of track at some point, hopefully soon, because I'm not, that's mainly down to my intense dislike of social media.
Yeah. The fact is, right, we are talking about the 5 most successful companies in the world, and we are not sure whether they're going to be around in 20 years. The whole point, and we're investing guys, right? We all look at this. We all purposefully look at this, not with just an interest. We look at it purposefully because that's where we want to put our money. That's where we see succession planning and being able to pass this down onto our kids and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
we don't know. We're not sure. And this is the whole point of a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah.
No one should know this shit. We don't.
You can earn your money.
If you have your £1 million, you should be able to put that into an account or just keep it basically anywhere you want and just know it's not going to erode away and melt like an ice cube, and not have to go and gamble on an Apple or an Amazon and just fucking cross your fingers to hope they don't fuck up and your £1 million doesn't just evaporate, because the banks are going to steal it via inflation. And so you have to become an accredited investor to be able to just retire. And it's not right. And on a Bitcoin standard, average working people will be able to save money, save it in sats, and know that that value will stick around. And in 100 years' time, those sats that will buy a loaf of bread will still buy a loaf of bread in 100 years.
Exactly.
It changes the game.
That the average worker and the average person isn't clued up to do this. I'm not even going to say that I'm necessarily the best person to do this either. I'm maybe just slightly ahead, but it's...
we're still amateur.
We're still gambling.
Yeah, I'd say until my mid-30s, I don't think I really understood it.
I'm still really feeling around in the dark.
Yeah, I think I've only had real breakthrough in the last year.
Yeah.
I'm being serious about that because I've invested, I've saved, but I don't think I've really understood it until the last year when everything's actually made a lot more sense. And I've gone, oh, now I understand how we can sort money, but it doesn't mean it's easy.
Yeah,
I've still got to gamble.
You've got to gamble, you've got to hold your nerve, and you've got to, essentially be super disciplined, because again, it's a human trait not to look over there and then get kind of excited at the new shiny thing.
We were talking about this before you joined the call, before we hit record, and I was saying, like, to Gaz, like, the share safe came up in work. I was talking to you about it, and I said, I don't know if I can afford to do it. And I thought you could only have two schemes going. And I went, oh no, it's up to £500. So I went, oh, I haven't got £500. I'm going to put £90 in. And I was like, don't know if I can afford it. But I went, you know what? I can't not afford to do it, to max out my amount and to have a couple of lines of investments. Because like we said, one of them can fall over.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, you basically, what is it, about 20% increase it gives you by going through a share safe. Yeah. I just thought I'd be silly not to. So I've filled up my capacity, and it's the first time which I've done it. And once again, before the last year, I didn't click on to that, which is ridiculously stupid. I was just making my mountains of cash, which was getting eaten away by inflation.
So you didn't do last year's?
Oh no, I've got the last 3 years.
Yeah, okay, cool.
You didn't,
no, here's the
max
question.
it out.
Well, I maxed the last two out, but before that, I was just like, don't know if I can afford it. Whereas it should have been, I couldn't, like the early ones, because I got some when I originally joined. I made 30x since then, but then the ones after went, I'm buying a house.
Say it again.
But that was pure luck. It's not down to pure skill. I just did it. So I went, I've got fuck all money, and I know that money will be untaxed going into that. So, and I was entry-level job, and so I took the shares, and then I never had to sell, because I went, I can see the company getting better. And then it comes to the next 3 years, when it hit the point where I said I'll sell, I can see it going up again, so I left it. I can see it going up again, so I left it. And it just kept on going on, because I never truly needed that money, because I saved outside to afford a deposit for a house, but I never went for further share saves for a number of years, because I went, I need to buy, I want to buy a house, or I want to buy a family house. So I kind of put it off, which was a mistake at the time, because it should have been my savings fund.
Again, another key lesson there, where you were able to, I don't know whether if it was on purpose or just through sheer stinginess, that you didn't try to go and use that money, and you just managed to do it without using that money.
It was stinginess both ways, because I could see the company growing. But then also I don't put money into it, because I wanted to build up cash. And it was lack of foresight, whereas you think I could have got it when it was, more expensive my first time by, say, 10x, but I still could have got a nice increase. And it was a lack of awareness.
Yeah. And guidance as well. Lack of awareness, lack of guidance.
And that's what people got to learn. And, there's plenty of people in our shoes where we were 10 years ago who won't realise about this, that they should go in. And they're going to think, I need to build my money for my house deposit, not thinking this is a thing which could help me build my house deposit.
Yeah.
Well, if anything, not just a deposit, it can buy the whole fucking house.
Yeah. If you maxed out the schemes and did as much as you could, because that first one, which I did, I couldn't afford to put much in. I got 3/4 of my allowance, whereas I put in the full amount, which probably would have bankrupted me at the time. it, with it 30xing, I would have had, so if I times that by 5, would have afforded a house.
It's funny you say that actually as well, because one of the share save schemes that I had, then I sold out, paid for the stamp duty for my house, but in time, where I'm at in my whole, road to freedom, I'm thinking, I'm going to use that money to then put into Bitcoin to then hopefully buy the whole house. But I don't think that I can do it just from the share save scheme because of the, I guess, the rate of inflation of how quick it would go up in comparison to, of course, where I think that Bitcoin will get to.
Yeah, I've still got most of those shares as well because they are nice earners, and it is diversification. I've got a lot of money in Bitcoin, but I've still got other things, not like Gaz. I can't commit to just one thing. So
I give everyone a nickname actually, because Gaz is Mr. All In, Ross, you're Mr. 10%, and I'm Dr. and I'm Mr. I Never Look. So that's if we ever came to doing merch, that's what we would be.
Yeah, well, the 10% is completely out the window.
Yeah, I know, but you're still Mr. 10% to me.
Yeah, that's true. When I was just saying put 10% in, put 10%
in. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Over the shares, I remember all those shares, like as the company was doing better and the share save scheme, it's risk free. But still, the problem is when the scheme matures, then the risk suddenly comes in, and everyone around me was selling. Because the problem is the company share price over the last 12, what was it now, probably 15 years, nearly every year it's all-time high. So every single person selling is like, how can this be a bad decision? It's all at all-time high. The share price has never been higher. So of course, if I sell now and buy a new kitchen, buy a new car, go on holiday, do whatever, how can that be a bad decision? Taking profit is never a bad decision. And whilst I agree that taking profit is not a bad decision, you've got to really think about time preference here and go, but do you think this is the top, or do you really need that money now? And if that 20, 30 grand that is just matured, if that wasn't there, does your kitchen really look as bad as you think it looks?
This is it. Because I skimmed some money at my shares because I want to take some profit, but I left the majority in, and it was to put in the kitchen. But then COVID happened, and the share market went through the floor, so I put it into the market. That's literally what I did, because I don't need that money now. I'm not going to get anyone into do the kitchen for at least 6 months at that time. I'll put it in the share market, so it'll bounce back guaranteed, and it did.
You should be able to buy 3
I also see Bitcoin, by the way, and where we're at in terms of the cycle of Bitcoin, similar to the internet. And the fact that we could never ever project where the internet and how it affects our lives right now, and literally, we use it every day.
I feel we're starting to see the start of it, because you think the internet, was it information, communication? What else does it give you? And also the ability to purchase what you want. Bitcoin. You're starting to see the use cases now. So we've seen in El Salvador, people able to pay their bills easily and not travel across the other side of town, and movement away from the government, from inflation. So we are starting to see the start of this, whereas the start of the internet was some shitty message board to download a JPEG of porn, wasn't it?
That's the good old days.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're starting to see the kind of evolution of Bitcoin now, and it is the exciting times, but it's weird that the exciting times are happening and we aren't getting all the FUD which we were, back at the start of the year.
Yeah, well, it depends. The energy FUD and the ransomware FUD is still floating about. But I just want to just make sure we bring in and just counterbalance the FUD, actually, weirdly, about inflation, the fact that it isn't real from AOC. There is the next comment under, it'll be in the show notes. There's a really good thread from Raoul Paul, who actually does break it down. He is a fucking shitcoiner, so you go fuck himself. But he's got some good points around inflation.
He's not been as active, I've seen, with his show recently.
because he's been we cancelled the fucker.
Yeah.
Like, because he started shitcoining. He opened up his pay group. So the thing is, like, the Bitcoin community, once he came out, like, he's a great investor. He's obviously done well, and he talks very well. He does understand the markets. He understands inflation. He gets it. And then what we thought he also got was Bitcoin. And he came into, weirdly, he is like Sailor 1.0, because he came in, started in Bitcoin, did the whole round of Bitcoin, became a celebrity, went from zero to hero. Then very quickly, the shitcoiners got on him, and he started going, oh, what's XRP? What's Ethereum? What's this? What's this? And all the Bitcoiners went, don't do it, Roll. Don't fucking do it. And then he opened up a paid group of crypto analysis, coin of the week, subscribe here. And we went, oh, you just fucked yourself here, boy.
Such a shame, because he comes across really well. He really does. And again, you know, he has credible guests. Like you say, he talks really well and gets it, you know.
Yeah. And this thread that we'll link proves he gets it, because he really cleverly, he's marked a load of charts down in the thread where he marks the price of goods and the stock market and all stuff like this exactly against the monetary supply from various nations.
Oh, nice.
They track.
This one wouldn't load for me. I'm finding that annoying now because now I want to see it more.
Really good. And essentially what he does, he puts, okay, you're saying inflation doesn't affect prices. All right, fine. Oh, expanding the monetary supply does not affect prices. He's like, okay, let's map the stock market over monetary supply. Let's map the basket of goods and the house prices over monetary supply. The graphs go up like this, completely in sync, 100% in sync. So you just go, is this a coincidence over the last 50 years since we started printing money? That as the price of like we've inflated the money like 50, 60, 70% over the original supply. Oh, look, the price of these goods have also gone up by 60%. It's just too consequential to be a coincidence. It clearly isn't. Printing money clearly inflates the prices of goods. Sometimes it lags slightly.
It's just a coincidence that house prices were about under 200 grand in 2000.
I know. And it's just great. It's a great thread, actually, just to have it bookmarked in a way, because or just copy some of the pictures down, because then anyone that says, oh no, inflation just stimulates the economy and prices come back down to parity after 5 years, you go, oh right, disprove this then. Here's house prices and the average price of goods all mapped against monetary supply. Why do they go exactly in sync? Every time they print 10% more money, the price of houses go up by 10%. Why is that?
Amazing.
Yeah, I have to dig that thread in. Like I said, it wouldn't load, but it has now, so I sent it to myself, to my phone, to make sure I can to read that. I mean, my whole point is, like, what do you think is going to happen if there's 20% more dollars? Do you think your dollar still has the same pulling power?
I know. The crazy thing is, it's just link one, isn't it? You know, where that there's a congresswoman there who's very well respected, especially in the millennial community. AOC is one of the most followed politicians in America. And she is on CNN there, or MSNBC, whichever one it is, a mainstream channel, explaining why inflation is not a real thing. So then that suddenly explains, you know, why people don't think inflation is a real thing, because someone they respect, who's in a position of power and influence, is telling them it's not a real thing.
But it just shows she's a fucking liar, and someone should just look at something really as simple as an asset which the rich want: gold, houses, businesses, shares. Whatever the rich are investing in, look at that. Don't look at fucking price of a TV or a gaming console.
I know, it's very dangerous, because weirdly at the end of her little speech there, she says not only, and Biden said as much actually. He said, I'm going to do some policies. He didn't mention what policies, but actually inflation will go down, which is hilarious. You don't say inflation is going to go down. You just say deflation. It's like, use the other word, mate. But he doesn't know the other word. It wasn't in his teleprompter. But and weirdly then goes on to say, actually, and to help this, what we need to do is spend more, and then the prices will come down more. I'm like, oh my God, like the amount of mental gymnastics you have to go through, where you go, the reason why prices are going up is because I'm printing money. But guess what? I've got some secret plans that mean if I do them, which guess what? I need to print more money to do them, prices will go down even more. And you're like, no, that is literally the opposite.
Well, at least it will speed up the end of the dollar.
Yeah.
You can inflate it for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, this is something which I was going to raise at some point, is talking about empires. I think we touched upon the Roman Empire, which is my favorite because I remember reading about it in the Bitcoin Standard. It was one of the points which kind of opened my eyes to inflation, the coin clipping. And we've got the Ming Dynasty, where their philosophers or whatever they were, professors said, no, not the Ming, it was Jung or something like that, said, do not do paper money, stay with silver. And they're like, what do you know? It's like, you will print it and you will make it worthless. And sure enough, they did that. Then they tried to switch back to silver, but it was too late.
Yeah.
So we got two empires which it happened to. Have we got any others outside of that which it happened to? So one's like the Egyptians, seems to be around drought and disease. But have there been any big empires where it's happened?
Well, you've also got the British Empire and the value of the pound. Just
what caused the end of that?
I think effectively it was people and their uprising against the British Empire, and then effectively they denounced their power, and then you had the Commonwealth.
Yeah, we might have to do some research on empires. I don't really know, because I know like the falling of lots of currencies, because you've got, it's all in the Bitcoin Standard, right? You've got rhinestones, you got the agri beads, got seashells.
Put it on the agenda, and we'll come back on that.
Yeah, it's just one about, it was mentioned in Bitcoin money you can't fuck with. It talked about Pocahontas and the gold and the same beginning with W Wagyu or something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly. And they said that it was basically seashells. They said, we don't want your gold. We trade in seashells, and they just went and dredged up the seas, and then it became worthless.
Yeah. So that's the history. That's the history of every form of money. Eventually, because you don't have money if it's not scarcity, and it's hard to create, easy to transact, easy to divide, but the main one is scarcity. And what tends to happen with every form of money, it was scarce at some point, otherwise it would never have been money. But then some invention happens to increase the demand or increase the supply, so scarcity is gone, so the value goes to zero. And essentially the same thing's happening here with fiat money, but it isn't an invention, it's just governments freely printing it.
But they established this in China when they told them not to do it, hundreds of years ago. I don't know when the dynasty was even remotely in terms of years, but it's amazing that we're doing the same thing again.
The problem is, if you're corrupt and you're at the top, it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't care the fact that you're going to make millions of people poor, because ultimately you're as close to the money printer as possible. So the second the money comes off the printer, you get access to it. You invest it in the stock market, shit tons of property and loads of your businesses. So even when this all blows up, you and your family and all your friends are going to be very, very wealthy anyway, because you've established yourself in real tangible assets that are not just connected to the US dollar or the pound. They're real life goods and services type stuff, homes, stocks and shares and businesses. So they're going to be fine. And all you got to realize is, once you put psychopaths and sociopaths at the top of this thing who don't give a fuck, provided them and their mates will get rich and millions get poor, then now replay that scenario in your head and go, do you think it's incompetence, or do you think they're doing it completely open-eyed and they just don't care what the consequences are?
Here's a question though, because will they continue at the rate that they are continuing at, knowing that right behind them, China is there to then overtake America as the world's number one power? So on the one hand,
it's happened.
Yeah. It's only the fake news that says America's number one. We looked at the data, didn't we? And China are number one by miles.
It's part of the currency, isn't it? Because they're the streets ahead.
Yeah. But I guess effectively it's like they're compelled and they just can't stop themselves.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, the second you stop, then your economy collapses.
Yeah.
Because the problem is, like, literally, like, I was thinking about this the other day, actually, going, what is that really stopping them from just going, you know what, let's just ease off on the money printing?
Yeah, exactly.
cut it a bit. The problem is the governments have expanded hugely. So they have huge health systems, police forces, prisons, courts, just everything that government is, right? They have expanded hugely. The graphs, when you look at the monetary supply of how it's expanded, then you look at the number of people and the average price or the average revenue for a government has gone up in the same trajectory. So what happens the second they stop printing, there isn't enough tax income to pay for the stuff they do. So the second they stop, we start really realizing what's happening, what the real situation is. Our health systems start to stop because they stop paying doctors and nurses. The bins stop getting emptied. The roads stop getting fixed. Like all the government stuff, like the police stop turning up because the government can't afford to pay them. Our tax money that they put in is a drop in the ocean compared to what they print. So they have to print just to stay even. But what each government that comes in wants to do is not just stay even. They also want to try and make it even better, their new scheme. And also the problem is that even in their little fake world of money printing, this is debt. They owe this to the Fed. So the money keeps going up just on interest. I saw a crazy stat the other day where I think Britain, our national debt went up by like 8.7 billion that month. And you just look at it and go, the fuck's going on? Like that's more than the entire tax income for the UK, I think, is about 80 million. To go up by 8 billion in a month. It's like, is this even real life? They are so far detached from reality that the second the government stop printing money, the entire economy collapses on its face. So that is why, even if they wanted to, they can't stop. They have to keep printing, and they'll keep going until money loses its value. And that's why hyperinflation exists. Because the second you stop, you get the consequences of hyperinflation anyway, where, like, especially, and this is the weird thing, where we have like a free health system, like I say free in the UK. It's also very, very dangerous the way we've set this up, because the second our government falls, the NHS falls with it. At least in America, they say like, oh, private healthcare is bad and like people that have cancer don't get treated. But you know what? When the US government falls, the private healthcare doesn't, because they're for-profit businesses, at least. In the UK, when our government falls and the pound falls to zero, the NHS, everyone that works there will not get paid next month. Do you think they're still going to be there to treat your cancer? They're not.
It's a powerful thing. And again, a lot of people don't realize that. And I've just obviously dropped in the chat the US debt calculator, and it's just fascinating to just watch that go up at the speed that it's going up and know that it's real.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
It's happening right in front of us.
Love that. That's great.
Yeah. And that again is probably probably worthwhile putting in the show notes the US debt clock.
So I think kind of getting to the point around this, we talked about the debt, inflation, and the inevitability of the collapse of currency, and this is ultimately what Bitcoin's about. So whether you truly believe in it, something is going to take the place of the dollar, and I think Bitcoin is the best bet at the moment. We have had the noise over, was it the last week, regarding the Bitcoin, which kind of brings us into the next subject, but it's basically sterling. It's just a crypto version of it, and I'm pretty sure that most of sterling is digital.
But it hasn't got a blockchain.
Who fucking cares? It's still the same shit. It's literally like the difference between an Amazon coin and a gift card.
Yeah. Once you realize a blockchain is a database, you go, oh, like how do they store sterling at the moment? The supply in a database. So yeah. So I couldn't believe this when I saw this. Like, this is whole Bitcoin, where our government reckon this is the whole, I think, evolution of CBDCs, where governments are trying to get in on it, and they're going, oh yeah, we need blockchain and digital currencies, and yeah, we're going to have a coin for each country from the looks of it. But
they kind of miss the point, because the reason why there's such a craze about it is scarcity, or some kind of new technology. It's not just saying, oh yeah, we've got a blockchain. Yeah, it isn't just, oh, we've got a blockchain on the fucking on the pound. That's pretty much what it is. And it's the worrying thing about it is, I was reading the article, when I read the comments, was as some of them nailed it, is all it does is allows the government to monitor and track everything which you do. And then it takes, and also, if we do move away from any kind of cash, and you have to do it, say, PayPal app or whatever to transfer money, so handyman, builder, whatever, no cash jobs anymore. So there's going to be a lot more tax revenue, which is what Rishi's going to be looking at.
100%. I mean, yeah, I've just been playing around with that debt clock. Oh my gosh, have you seen in the top right hand side where you can go forwards and back as well?
Oh yeah.
To the 80s, 90s, and then what it'll be in 2025.
Yeah. So it's just going to be a matter of time, man. One comment which I got off this article in the Daily Mail, as Gaz put in a wonderful link, was its supporters in the Treasury say that it would allow the bank to give the economy a boost in times of financial crisis by paying the Bitcoins directly into people's bank accounts.
No. Well, what?
That money is worthless.
And it makes no sense, does it? Like, why can't they pay pounds into our bank accounts now?
Yeah. And this also raises a really good point. They say, oh, we can't afford to help poor, blah, 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 previous years. And as soon as the pandemic happened, the magical money came around. So why the fuck didn't you give that to all the poor, starving children?
Yeah, they printed $1 trillion in a week. And literally every single that one example there of they printed $1 trillion for the pandemic. Every single excuse over the last 50 years of government saying they didn't have money to fix homelessness, schools, NHS,
potholes,
everything. Every single excuse they ever said where they went, there was literally no money. We can only do this. This is sensible economic policy, and we know what we're doing. We can only print this much. The second a pandemic hits, bang, $1 trillion gets printed out of their ass, and all gets wasted. By the way, all just goes off to third-party contractors and big pharmaceutical companies. None of it ended up in education, NHS, or anything.
They got the $500 stimmy checks.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
we got furlough money, I guess. So yeah.
Well, I fucking didn't.
neither did I. But that was money that actually went to the people. But I think in America it worked out. It was less than 20%. Less than 20% went on stimmy checks. 80% went to third-party contractors. I don't know what it is for the UK.
But it's like it's even if you don't understand inflation or the problems with government money, fiat, then why aren't you questioning why we weren't sorting out the poor the year before?
Yeah.
And I think people seem to have completely lost that point.
Yeah.
And here's another quote from the article. Some investors have lost vast sums as the price of Bitcoin has gyrated wildly. You only lose money if you sell.
I love the whole freaking sentiment of that article. Why I could easily rewrite that and go, some investors have made vast sums of money as the price of Bitcoin has gone up. It's just it's literally how you choose to write it. Like what mentality are you trying to pitch here? Like you want to diss Bitcoin and pump Bitcoin, so that's why they're writing it like that.
It's a race to have a nation state digital coin, but we ultimately already do because money's digital, so it's a pile of fucking nonsense.
Yeah, their main objective is, I think, trying to compete with Bitcoin, but then also to get rid of cash, so they can completely remove the one form of anonymous money that still exists, which is cash.
They had here in the article again another quote: "Quantitative easing has been used since 2009 financial crisis," and I went, "Do we not print money before that for the last 100 years?"
Since 1941, World War II, you dickhead. No, 1914, World War I.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, it's pretty much 100 years before that. And I was like, quantitative easing didn't just start in 2009. Because remember, we have had inflation for the past 100 years.
What it means is the person that wrote the article was about 26, and the only disaster he remembers is the financial crisis in 2008. So he thinks the whole world started then. He needs to read some more history books.
Or it's a government-paid advertisement.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, which the Daily Mail tends to be relatively like, I don't know, as much as they're offensive, they do tend to actually say the truth sometimes. So, but yeah, I think they're saying what they can on this, and it all depends on who they've interviewed.
It's usually about immigrants, NHS, COVID, neighbour disputes.
Scaremongering tactic or something
Exactly.
that's negative, isn't it? It's never.
They don't sell papers by saying, "Oh, there's been no crime in Manchester today," or look at this person who helped their neighbour, they're great, or everything's fine. They sell, one of the biggest tactics over the past 15 years has been about missing children. Every summer they pick one.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because I think right now, as in this very moment in time as we record episode 15, there's a lot of trying to be feel-good stories. So talking about the sunshine, the Olympics, and also the unlocking, because I felt like they didn't really roast Rooney after his apparent misdemeanor once again.
He didn't. He was just too hammered. He fell asleep on a chair. The guy was absolutely smashed. If that had been gender roles reversed, there would have been a lot of trouble there.
Oh, what did he do? I missed this story. What's he
Basically, he got hammered at a club, started partying with 3 girls, and he was so hammered. They got him back to his hotel room. He fell asleep sitting in a chair because he was that hammered. So basically, he was just off his face, and they're probably saying, "We'll give you more beer" or whatever. He went fine, and he fell asleep in a chair. They're taking pictures of him, sold it to some newspaper. But imagine that was a woman.
Man,
so famous.
Married with 4 kids, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's never stopped him with the affairs, grannies, and everything else.
I can't believe he's still doing that shit.
Yeah.
But like I said, if that was gender roles reversed, and that was some famous female, I don't know what other pop star, I don't know who the hell's even famous anymore, with 3 lads, it'd just be disgusting. They took advantage of drunk Adele or whoever.
Oh yeah, because if he was that passed out and stuff, yeah. Oh god, I can't believe he's still doing that. Right, last story of episode 15. Oh, I had it then. What was it? Oh, that was it. It was the
JP Morgan.
I know. I want to skip that one. Go on then. Just JP Morgan going to sell Bitcoin to their clients. Yeah, great.
I've got one comment. Lol.
No.
Yeah. Fuck Jamie Dimon. He's a cunt. But no, the one I wanted to end on is the image that I sent you in, which was there was some posts on Reddit, and it links back to
working.
How to become wealthy when you're working. And I thought it was just a great little thing.
Yes.
Because it links into a developer. He's basically earning $1.5 million a year. And I go, how are you doing that? He goes, I've got 10 jobs. They all pay 150K. I do remote working. I only work an hour a day on each one. None of them know that I'm not full-time on their one. It takes them a couple of months, probably normally 6 months to figure anything out and then fire me. And it only takes me about 3 weeks to get another one. So I just keep topping it back up. And yeah, it's a little bit of a funny story, but it's also a bit of a moral dilemma, because when you know the system's that fucked against you, you just go, you know what? This is a way to play the system, especially with all this home working. You can have multiple jobs, especially if you don't take full-time employment and sign a contract, just do the consultancy thing. So you're a self-employed and they just basically charge your business and you invoice them each month. Now you can have as many jobs as you want. And it's just, I thought it's an interesting topic to throw out there and go, is this stealing? Is this okay? If you're having 10 jobs,
a way to actually get rich.
Yeah.
Because this guy got rich. He earns $1.5 million a year.
I thought it was a bit like, God, I can't believe this, but it's also, I think I mentioned in the group, but I've seen people, do fuck all work I've worked with for many years, and I kind of think you probably do their work in like an hour a day. Honestly, think that. So it doesn't surprise me it's happened because we've all come across lazy people or people who seem to do very little. So yeah, I think it just highlights the issues. But then, what do? Do you monitor and track your workers? Because there's a privacy element to that. I know that UK employees won't touch those systems.
Oh, they already do. I can guarantee the company you work for does it now. They take a screenshot of your screen when you're logged on to the VPN every 5 minutes. I'm telling you that for fact. They have that already.
There you go. You heard it here first.
I was going to say, how have they not caught anyone, man?
They have. There's been numerous people being called up for it, and they've been shown the door. The thing is, this is one of the things, right? They only look at it if they want to get rid of you. So,
Naturally, yeah.
So the IT guys know it exists because there's one of them that looks through it. But most of the logs tend to just, like, you'll have a folder, for example. You will both have folders with all your screenshots in. Most of the time, no one bothers to open it up. But if they have a problem with you, they open it up. And they go, someone spend the day clicking through some screenshots. Let's see if we can see 10 in a row that are not work related. Boom, got you.
There you go. I remember as well, from the very, very early days, our work passes actually clocked you in.
Yeah.
So HR knew the time that you were in, you were out. Obviously, if you went out to lunch and when you left work as well. But you just thought it was your standard pass to say, hey, I'm a employee,
Yeah, I remember hearing about a few of those catching people.
Yeah.
Who they want to get, one person they want to get rid of, and they found out they're clocking at like 10 or something.
Yeah.
But the rest of the team wasn't in the same office.
Yeah. So it's like with anything, this is, again, like, companies will do the same thing as governments do. Like, they'll keep essentially files. They just want to track and surveil everything. This is why Bitcoin is such a big advantage, because all they want to do really is just have all your transactions tracked. And then if at some point you become a problem and they want to get you off the streets and imprison you, what they can then do is just go, well, let's have a look at every single drug dealer that we've caught, and let's see if this person has ever transacted with that one of these guys. If he has, boom, we can probably get him on some low level drugs charge, and then we'll escalate it from there. Once we've got him, then we'll get him to do whatever we want. And this is the classic one, right? Like, weirdly, how do most drug dealers get caught in the world? They get done on tax evasion.
Yeah.
It's not doing their taxes. It's like, where did the money for the Ferrari came from? And they can just go, no comment. And they go, right, well, the only crime we can actually figure out that you've done is the fact that your declared income does not equal a Ferrari. So therefore, the Ferrari you did not is illegal income and you didn't pay taxes on it. So that's what they get you on, not because they couldn't prove that you did any drugs. They can't prove where the money came from. They can't, everything looks legit, but it didn't come through his tax form. He didn't declare the tax on it. And that's why they get you. And it's the same with companies. They will do the same thing to you. They will try and surveil and track everything that you do. And then if they decide at some point in the future they want to get rid of you, then they go back and look at the audit trail and go, let's see if we can find something. Because quite often the thing you did probably isn't a sackable offense. Maybe it is, but if it isn't, if it's just close, then they will go back and go, let's really confirm this and really bring the hammer down. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people get on the wrong side of certain management, and they've gone into those databases. They look at expenses, they start analyzing that, and then they look at the screenshots. They're the two things they look at, and they just find something.
It's not hard, is it?
We should have a chat about that on Signal.
Ross is shitting himself right now.
Oh no! I want to know. I want to know.
For 10 years, they've been taking screenshots of my screen.
I was going to say I want to know who.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It's not about shit myself because, well, I'm a bit too honest.
Yeah. By the way, the trick is, right, this is the trick that I learned really early.
Just turn your VPN off.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And use webmail or use your phone for email. And then when you want your email, just put the VPN back on. It'll come back through. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm just, like I said, I'm curious now.
I mean, if I'm going to get fired for looking at the world debt clock, so be it. It's going to be like my new screensaver. It's a fascinating thing.
Now you're just watching it go up and up and up, aren't you? Just like,
Yeah, well, what I'm liking
pounds a
is
second.
the world debt clock as well. So you can see the UK debt as well as other countries.
Cool. I'll make sure I put all these links in. And yeah, been a good episode, guys.
Okay. Au revoir.
Brilliant.
Conspiracy theories.
Out.
Yeah, I think this is certainly the conspiracy theory episode.
The last one was called Penis, so it's a step up.
But of course, in time, we can look back on this and actually say, well, was it a conspiracy theory or not?
I suppose that's true.
Yeah.
It wasn't. None of them.
Exactly. It wasn't.
They're all fucking true.
Yeah. You just need to change your name to Mr. All-In, and then we're all good. I might go with Sir Neverlook. Yeah, fellow plebs, if you want to hear us, then tune in.